Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another episode of Case Closed, where we have real discussions in a mature fashion. My name is Solomon Jones, and the guy with the piano board. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Keyboard, excuse me.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I am Dr. Thunder. I'm a musician, professor, and social commentator, and I'm looking forward to getting this show started.
And I am Ike. I'm a YouTuber as far as this show is concerned, and as far as I'm concerned today. And I'm looking forward to getting to it.
Hey guys, I'm Chantel. I guess I'm a YouTuber too. Um Brainstorming solutions, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. So hopefully we can bring some solutions, get some solutions from it.
And hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a YouTubian. I'm a lie say I'm a slash ex educated stripper. Just so we can lighten up the topic a little bit. So let's get into
Oh,
it.
really? I didn't know that. All right, gentlemen. Are we ready for this? Are we ready for this? Well, let me throw something in the water real quick, okay? So basically, the question is this: what exactly are we to take from the fact that we tend to do a lot of comparison? Okay, we know as individuals. Okay, Solo, Chantel, if you wake up every morning and you wake up and you start measuring, how many grains of rice are in your plates, in your neighbor's plate versus yours. Who's got how much in the bank, who's got what degree, so on and so forth. We'll be like, whoa, 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 Chantel, wake up and smell the roses. Life is not all about comparison. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 15. We all know the cliches, okay? But we still know that it is nice to keep score. But in a group setting, it seems like we tend to not have very good intuitions or markers. Mainly this: we can wake up and we can start looking at different groups in terms of race, specifically in this conversation, okay? Race. Who has more money? Who has more degrees? Who has more divorces? Who has this, that, and the other? You take a population and you start comparing and comparing and comparing. The first question on the table is, what are we trying to get out of this? What is going too far? What is going to get the outcomes that we want? Why compare? Let's start with Dr. Thunder, and then LAR, and then Chantel, and then Solo. Why are we comparing?
So, we are comparing because we want to know where we stand. We want to know who it is that we should be modeling, using as a model, be looking at like, okay, I need to emulate stuff that this particular group is doing because their group is performing better than my group is. I mean, it's the same thing, football playoffs are about to begin. Wild card weekend will be next weekend. And it's the same reason why there's a lot of copying. It's like a copycat league. So anytime a particular strategy starts to become effective, all of the teams start to emulate as much as they can with the players on their roster, whatever those strategies are. And if you don't do
Okay,
that,
so
then you're going to be left in the dust.
emulation. Perfect. Excellent. Because I know there are going to be a number of them that come out from the conversation, but you are saying we copy for emulation in order to, we compare so that we can then copy what the other people are doing. Now, I'm sure some people are going to have pushback for that. Okay, when we go around, is that really why? Is that really why we're comparing, right? But LAR, why do we go around comparing racial groups in terms of X, Y, and Z? Do we expect parity? Do we expect equality? Dr. Thunder says it's because we want to emulate whom is ahead of us. What do you say about why we do it?
I think we do comparison, especially in this nation, as a means to say I'm better than you or we're better than you. And I think the way we do it is perverted because no matter what group you're talking about, you're not going to compare the best to the best. You're going to compare the best to the middle to the worst. So even when we do the group thing, so I think in this country in particular, it's my top 10th is better than your top 50. My top 10th percentile it looks they do way better than your top 50th percentile. And it's like, that's not the same people though. Because, first rule of statistics, you can skew anything to say anything. So I think we play with the numbers a lot to make a situation that doesn't exist. So we really don't compete person to person or group to group, the same group to the same group, rather.
All right, Chantel, what you got for us? LAR thinks there's some skewing of the numbers going on because of the human proclivity to want to one up each other. One upmanship is a great impetus. Go ahead. What you got to say about it?
In terms of comparing ourselves to other, I see it as a positive. I see it as, if we're on a path of improving, if we're on a path of becoming the best versions of ourselves, comparing ourselves to others, not in a negative way where we're like being destructive or negatively trying to affect the other or negatively trying to affect ourselves, but in a way where we can compare ourselves in terms of our progress, in terms of what do we need to improve on, how can we improve. And that's why games and sports are so beneficial, because then they can compare themselves to the other team, like what do they have and what do we need to improve on. So I see comparison as a positive. That's the only way we're going to grow and self-improve, if we know what to self-improve on.
Let me hold your feet to the fire 1 second there, Chantel. Comparison, good. In terms of many kinds of group dynamics or individuals or this street versus that street. But in terms of race, what is the benefit between, so you have dark skin, and then there are a bunch of other people who have dark skin. And what does it matter to you what their outcomes socioeconomically are?
If there are things that they're doing that they're succeeding at, that's benefiting them in terms of race or in terms of culture. Clarify when you say dark skin. If I'm comparing, like, for example, if I'm comparing myself to a light skinned girl. That's what you meant?
Ike, are you awake?
Oh, no. I thought you were continuing. Okay. I'm talking about just race. I'm talking about, okay, when I mean brown, I mean, let's say, black people, whatever you want to call it, people of African descent, right? You have a certain you have this racial heritage. There's something phenotypically in terms of your skin tone and whatnot, features that make you the same as somebody else. So now you're grouped into this group and everyone is looking at your stats saying, Chantel and Dr. Thunder are part of this group. Okay. How much money do they have? How many degrees do they have? Blah, blah, blah. Does that work? The racial aspect of comparison?
I mean, I think it depends on what the goal is. The why are we comparing it? If we're comparing to say, okay, Dr. Thunder is a part of one group and that group is being more successful in this area, and it's obvious that, okay, they're being more successful because they have more degrees, then my group, it's in my group best interest to take what I can take from what Dr. Thunder's group is doing to try and improve myself. So I think it depends on the reason why we're comparing.
Good. So to emulate, to be able to take the good stuff out. Okay, Solo, what you got? Why do we do this kind of comparison when it comes to groups? Because there's an endless number of ways we can compare, and there will never be an end to it, right? It can always be, okay, your left toe is slightly bigger than my right toe, and all those other kinds of things. And we also have the proclivity, as LAR put, to want to one up each other. So we're not going to stop comparing. So when can we then, so what is going on here? What is the positive side? What's the negative side? I think that Chantel and Dr. Thunder have pointed out the positive side to say that, hey, you can go ahead and get the best practices from the other team. But go ahead, Solo. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, so it goes back to human nature. There's something called social comparison theory, I believe, which is a theory that, human beings, we always compare ourselves to others, right? In regards to that, you also look at social status. People want to know where they rank in society wise, socially. I mean, this has been since the beginning of time, in essence. And also, it's men's need to conquer to be the best, right? From civilizations to, from the beginning of time, Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, all of those, right? Now, the benefits, I think there are a lot of benefits if you look at comparing to race, because you see where you stand. And I wrote a list regarding education, health, financial empowerment, and particularly psychological health. That's something that we don't talk a lot about. Now I've spoken about seasonal affective disorder, depression, and things like that, because I think that when I was looking at the numbers, there's disparities in regards to how wealthy people deal with, depression differently than people who aren't wealthy and such of that nature. We can definitely get into that a bit more. But so those are the reasons that, I see in regards to benefits and why we compare ourselves to others.
So, Dr. Thunder, let's start with Dr. Thunder, because you brought up the aspect of actually getting best practices, right? So shout out to Sweet Melody Speaks, I believe. He's got the $5 super chat. Okay. Says Chantel Simone, you look beautiful. Hey everyone. All right. Thank you.
I'm glad somebody else said that first. Chantel is looking like a snack.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you.
I'm just, Chantel, we got that crypto over here.
Thank you guys.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I continue while I keep thirsting. Continue. Hold up. Let me hit this Perrier.
Go ahead. Yeah, quench your thirst, Solo. You were saying, Dr. Thunder, that there was going to be that, theoretically, and you can already see the answer that you already see the angle I'm going to come at you with here, Dr. Thunder. I'm saying that theoretically we compare so that we can get best practice. But is that what's going on? Are you looking at, the Japanese are more successful in this than the black people and the white people? Is that what's going on? Or is it mainly a political football? A way to paint a narrative about how either I'm oppressed or you're taking something from me or I'm better than you or this, that, the other. It's not like, because what makes people, how people get successful. And that's how we're going to tie it into the class thing in a few minutes, okay? But if I were to hold your feet to the fire and we'll go around again, are we actually, even though you say, and Chantel say, ideally, you want to get the best practices. But do you see this happening when people talk about socioeconomic factors or socioeconomic outcomes when it comes to groups in terms of race? Are we out there trying to get best practices from the white man or the Asian man? Or are we just doing it for some kind of political jockeying and storytelling and whatever else people are doing out there?
Well, the usual thing, of course, is the political jockeying. And, for the reasons that aren't particularly constructive or beneficial for us. Unfortunately, that is the case. However, it does provide an opportunity to look at some of the positive attributes of other cultures and to try to apply those positive things to our own situations. One of the issues that I have with multiculturalism is that multiculturalism basically seeks to say everybody's okay. We want to value everybody, and we're going to say that everybody is the same. So even when you have aspects of certain cultures that are clearly superior than others, we're supposed to act like it's all the same stuff. And I have an issue with that, because it would actually be a tremendous opportunity for us to look at each other and say, okay, it's not because I think that some groups are genetically superior to others, but obviously there's aspects of culture that are not equivalent. They're not the same. And I think if we're being honest, then we can say that. Sports, again, is a good example here, where, folks get their feelings involved with their favorite team and everything. But I think in general, people enjoy watching sports because there's a very specific set of rules, and you follow the rules and let the best man win, as it were, And so then you actually understand and know what's superior, and you can be quantitative about this sort of measurement. That's why all of the statistics and everything. But unfortunately, we don't tend to do that. So to your point, it's more of an idealistic reason or view of how we could use comparisons.
Okay, so and then you've segued into this culture thing. Solo brought up the aspect of class in the sense that the real differences between people sometimes it's not necessarily just their phenotype, the skin color, the race that they check in the box, right? So, Chantel, okay, is it really useful to group you amongst with every other person who happens to be of a particular race? Oh, and what do you actually have in common? Is there a black culture that all of you now share? And then the outcomes of the socioeconomic outcomes can then be a reflection of this quote unquote black culture? Or is it a question of, like Solo said, class? Or a question of some other individual issues that you may have? Or maybe, spiritual problems or whatever it may be. In other words, is race a good category? How about culture? And is culture necessarily tied to race? Like, is there a black culture versus a white culture that we're trying to compare here? Okay, where does culture come in for you, Chantel?
For me, culture is important, but I think culture is too broad too. To answer your question, no. I think culture is too broad too. I think class is what we should what I would feel more comfortable, because um class is more something that is in your control. Race and culture is not necessarily in your control. Class kind of can be determined by the work you put in, the the effort you made to be successful. So I think grouping people in class is more, like, for lack of better words, fear, as opposed to race or culture.
Aha. So more. So LAR, so far you're the one that has put the direct negative on the table, saying that this is all an offshoot of our desire to compare. And then we shift the numbers in a certain way. Hey, my top 10 percentile is better than your 50 percentile, or I picked a particular thing that I am good at, right? The Kenyans, for example, can always beat everybody over the head regarding marathons, right? So the Kenyans could go tell the Filipinos, hey, my marathon runner, that kind of a thing, right? So, do you agree, LAR, on that maybe we should be looking at something different, maybe like class, and that's where really forget this whole I share a particular skin tone and a particular maybe genetic heritage and phenotype with somebody, because really we're not alike at all, and maybe class is what is more relevant.
Okay, I would say when it comes to things like this, a lot of times we're either short-sighted or we're purposely disingenuous. And because one of the biggest factors of this is terrain. It's it could be your culture, it could be your class, but but nobody talks about people's terrain. If when it comes to sports, when it comes to war, people use their terrain to their advantage. And then what we do is when we make these comparisons, we compare a person, we compare somebody who's unsuccessful in our terrain that didn't come from our terrain to a person that's successful in the terrain that they've grown up in. So, like when you made the Kenyan reference, that's you compare. What if you compare a Kenyan to a Russian marathoner? Well, he can't run in the winter like you can run in the winter, but you're just gonna leave it at I'm better than you. You get what I'm saying? So they have different. So a lot of people have a lot of our groups, our races, and a lot of cultures. We have different skill sets, and thus the comparison becomes, you're not as good as me at my skill set. So but like y'all said earlier, with any kind of game or competition, the rules apply for everybody. But I think what we have a tendency to do is, if this works for me and I'm great at this and my team is good at this and this is what works for us, you need to emulate us, even though you have a different terrain. So you're basically emulating the quote unquote winner. So you're never going to beat them at their own game. You got to beat them in the game, but not at the same game. If anybody ever, been in a situation, if you're dealing with somebody who's powerful and you're not going to outpower them. You're going to have to do something else. So a lot of times we don't take into consideration what our skill set is. So that's my opinion on that.
Nice, very nice. Solo, before I throw it over to you, just want to say that, first of all, Dr. Thunder said idealism is the case whereby we're going to take the best practices from the other team and then use it. But typically that's not the case. Chantel agreed that class seems to be fair in the sense that it is within your control. And then secondly, you can kind of measure it. It's easier to kind of group people in certain classes and such. Now, LAR has nuanced it a little bit more than saying, hey, the conversation is not nuanced enough, or shall we say the comparison is not nuanced enough. We go around comparing. You cannot compare Filipinos and Kenyans when it comes to marathons. You don't expect the same outcomes because those people over there in that particular grew up in that hill in Kenya, and it's a particular tribe in Kenya. It's not just all Kenyans. There's a particular tribe in Kenya that wins all those marathons, right? And it's because of their terrain. Well, it is correlated with the terrain, okay? Now, Solo, what do you have to say about both the fact that we are different at different things, and if we go around comparing just let's take this big block called the black people and the Asian people, and let's look about who has more cars, more education, more money, more this, more that, and then compete in each other that way. It's not nuanced enough. And then also comment on the class aspect, if you will.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you are looking at this in regards to comparison, right, it allows you to know, if you do it looking at it per country basis, where are your constituents at, right? Now, this allows you to measure progress in regards to economics, education, even home ownership, etc. Right? And in a sense, this is a good measure because it allows you to see, are people progressing in your society, in your civilization? Are people getting ahead? Right? Now, if you do it on a worldly level, well, of course, somebody who lives in Antarctica is not going to, be doing as well as maybe somebody in Europe or Asia, right? Because we know that there's different laws, different politics, all types of different things. Regarding to class, I think that when you look at culture, for example, you mentioned culture earlier, it's not really quantitative. You can't really measure culture regarding income, wealth, ownership, for example, amongst other things, right? Where with class, you certainly can. And not to deviate, but in the next few years, you're going to see a new class evolve to a level that you haven't seen with the cryptocurrency millionaires and billionaires that are going to spring forth. You're going to see a brand new class, and you're going to see a lot of minorities that are going to be coming up in this class, right? And unfortunately, there's also going to be a lot of people that is going to cause a wider gap in regards to the income disparity and get rid of the middle class. So let me read Lala's super chat real quick. From Jordan B. Peterson, humans compare because as lobster for survival and combat, we organize in hierarchies. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That goes to, what I was talking about earlier, that social group theory or comparison, right? So yeah, I hope I answered your question because I'm not trying to be long-winded today like you. So, shade.
All right. So,
Shade.
Dr. Thunder, okay. Let's pause on this thing here, and there's something that we have not mentioned. Let's make it a little bit more emotional, if you will. Okay, is it not the case that people are concerned about their racial image? So even if you are high up in the skies in the ivory tower, and you don't necessarily share anything with the average X group, black man, Asian man, whatever your group is, right? But you are a human being, you're a biological creature, you have genetic things and biological urges, and you have some kind of a thing called the racial image. And you would like this particular stats, whatever the stats may be, that represent or that have been taken about your group to be better, okay, or to look a particular way. So let's start with Dr. Thunder and let's talk about this racial image thing because I don't think that we've addressed it at least quite directly. Do you care about the racial image? Is it important? Does it affect you?
Yeah, so I'm an advocate for black men and boys, and that is a primary, uh, it's a central. I mean, in my content, it's something that I cover frequently. Um, I have a personal interest in it, in that I have a son who's 8, and so the sort of issues that black men, black boys face, um, I have a vested interest in seeing those things improve. Now, that's a separate issue from, uh, one of the reasons why black folks in general, why we have such a hard time sort of getting it out of the mud is that we feel responsible for the mud, right? We feel like we have to lift the mud up too. All right. And other cultures, they treat it more as a sort of individual case by case basis. So if they themselves are successful, they don't feel necessary to now I got to all my cousins, all my friends when I was young, all they don't feel they don't feel like they have to do that. And shout out to CGA. I was watching one of his streams last week, and he was talking about how, this idea of paying it forward. It's called paying it forward. And so, if because your mother made poor financial decisions, now she's 60 something, 65 or something. Now the expectation is because she didn't do what she was supposed to do, that now you're supposed to take care of her too. Right? Which is taking away from your ability to provide for your kids. That's the paying it forward thing. Other cultures seem to focus more on the paying it forward aspect. And hey, if you didn't get your stuff done, too bad. And that sort of fear that nobody will be there to take care of you makes them make better decisions when they're younger. So.
Okay, Chantel, does the image, the ethnic image, the racial image, and shout out, bam, 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 before I complete the question, and while you ponder on the racial image, the ethnic reputation about a group of people out there that you belong to racially and how it affects you, shout out to, what is that? D and a little C. DC, shout out to you, says, I review data on net worth once a year for benchmarks. Okay, this is going to Dr. Thunder's point, going to the taking, having a benchmark, knowing where you're at, rank ordering. We're hierarchical after all, right? So, and then I look at age group and race to keep me on track. I shoot for the highest number, okay, for my BM. That's black men, okay. These goes for retirement planning as well. So this is somebody who's using it as an individual, to keep themselves on track, and that seems fairly good. I mean, whether it be a age group or whatever it may be, you want to see where you are. You have to have some kind of cohort to compare yourself with. You can't be comparing yourself with Bill Gates every day. Otherwise, you don't even know what lane you're on. So Chantel, ethnic reputation, how does that ring to you? Racial reputation, how does that ring to you? Does it affect you? Do you care about it? What do you have to say about that?
It affects me, yes, but I don't care about it. There are gonna be stereotypes. There are gonna be, like for example, how people perceive black women. But if I, on an individual basis, can control my personal reputation, then I personally don't, and I wouldn't recommend anyone being caught up in the overall image of a racial group, just focusing on yourself, because to be so to be so caught up to be so caught up on what the image of black women is, takes away from improving myself. You know, in trying to better myself, and then also in trying to better the image of Black women, it will just be too draining, and it will take away all what I can pour into myself. So I'm aware of it, yes, but I'm not caught up in it where it's limiting what I can accomplish or limiting how I want myself to be. And it's very close to the sister code, and it can be misleading, especially to Dr. Thunder's point. Loyalty can be blinding, and loyalty can lead you in the wrong path. So if for the sake of the sister code, I'm going to adapt the Black woman image or defend the Black woman image, then it's just taking away from me and my personal growth.
Okay, can I rebut to that?
I'm not sure who's talking.
So I think you should be worried about Black women image, because I know as a Black man, if I go around my neighborhood wearing a hoodie when I'm doing my little jog walk, even though I don't fit that stereotype, but if I have that hoodie on, you won't believe some of the reactions I've gotten from white people. I've had white ladies run across the street. I've had white women yell, "Ah!" like I was gonna rob them. I've had people literally like stopping just a bunch of bizarre stuff, right? So I think Chantel, I know that I'm speaking from my perspective, but as a woman, you should, because you might be around certain people and then all of a sudden you start noticing them doing goofy stuff like they do when I run with the hoodie. Now, granted, when I'm running with a hoodie, I'm not robbing anybody. I'm just working out. But to those people, they don't know that.
You're not robbing them yet. You were going to rob them, but, then, doesn't mean they should.
Allegedly. So I'm just saying, Chantel, just be mindful, because if you're just walking down the street and White Zaddy comes up to you and starts, tasing you or something like that, or he thinks you're a streetwalker, I mean, you got to just be mindful.
But that's a heavy burden to carry, because then if you're walking down the street in a hoodie just minding your business and someone perceives you as a robber, then you can't control what the person think of you. And to always, because anything you do, if it's a hoodie, if it's a white shirt, if it's a watch, somebody can interpret that negatively. Just myself being Jamaican.
Right. And I don't disagree with you on that. However, I still care, because at the end of the day, you shouldn't have that type of reaction, Chantel. Like, let's say you were running in a hoodie. It's going to affect you when you see people just walk across the street, people yell, just doing a bunch of goofy stuff. People put their hand in their bag. I don't know if you got a gun in there. Like,
who shouldn't have that reaction?
Because you got to be careful, because you don't know what that other person might be thinking. If they're thinking to themselves, "Oh, it's a Black guy." I mean, it's like kind of like the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin situation. Except,
Solo,
you know what I'm saying?
Let me see here. What is to be done about it, Solo? But let me ask Chantel first.
No, I'm saying you got to be aware.
And then you can ask Solo what you were going to ask. But Chantel, has there been any part of your life whereby you felt or thought or had evidence of the fact that something held you back because of your race, right? You didn't get the job, you didn't get the this, you didn't get the that, right? And then how did you handle it? What is your viewpoint on that? In addition to whatever else you were going to rebut or ask Solo.
I can't think of a specific time where I think it's because of my race why I didn't get something. Then again, I tend not to think, maybe because I was raised in a different country where it's not so race focused. I tend not to think that my race is the reason why I didn't get something, or my race is why I didn't get an opportunity. So maybe that's why. I know that's a lot of and not to say it's just an excuse, because it definitely does happen, but I know that's an excuse that a lot of people say is like, "Oh, they did this because I'm Black." But again, because I wasn't raised in a country that was so race focused, like it was so focused on race. But to Sola's point, I am aware, like for your example, you're aware of what a hoodie, jogging with a hoodie on, you're aware of the reaction to that. However, you can't control what everybody else is thinking. You can't say, "Oh, I'm going to march against people's mindset or the stereotype," when you yourself can't control what a white woman who's going to cross the road because she sees you in a hoodie. You can't control her mind, and you can't control how she perceives that. So when I say I'm not concerned about the overall image, I just focus on myself. And if it's to the point where I see that wearing a hoodie, everybody who wears a hoodie is being gunned down, then I'm gonna just stop wearing a hoodie instead of trying to change somebody else's mindset or trying to change how the white woman perceive me. To avoid the situation in itself, I'm gonna just stop wearing a hoodie.
LAR, how does the white woman perceive
And
you?
can I
Go
rebut
ahead.
that? Can I
Oh,
rebut
well,
that?
go ahead, Sol. Go ahead,
So
Sol, if you
let me
had a
just
rebuttal.
say, like Chantel, I still wear a hoodie. Summertime, wintertime, spring, it doesn't matter. When I'm working out, I always like to have a hoodie on just so I can sweat through the extra layers. But all I'm saying is to say that you don't care. I just want to bring up the fact that you got to be aware. That's all I'm trying to say, because I know that I won't change the white lady's mind if she's screaming or going across the street. That's their issue. That's something they got to work on. That's not my problem in regards to whatever you're dealing with. But then I understand too, as a woman, you might feel vulnerable, that you might think somebody might attack you because, crime has been on the rise. But I'm not here. Let me be clear. I'm not here crying saying I'm a victim or anything like that. But it is definitely something I'm aware of. That's all I'm saying.
Can I share a story?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we all know how the black woman image is portrayed in this country. It's no secret that black women are portrayed as combative, loud, aggressive. A couple months ago, I had to change up. I had a nail in my car tire, and I went to a Middle Eastern side of town to change the nail. When I walked into the store, the guy automatically was giving my sister, it was me and my sister, he was Middle Eastern. He was just giving us attitude. He was just being very dismissive and just very boisterous towards us. But of course, we continued the conversation. We sat there, had manners, say please, thank you, good afternoon, asked the question, had the correct change, and just was very respectful. Towards the end of that interaction, he said, we are different than most black women that he's used to, and he was curious why we were different. He was just intrigued by how we represented ourselves. So when I say that I'm not concerned about the black woman image, it's not my job to try and change that guy's mind about black woman image. It's my job to know that my reputation is my responsibility. So I'm aware of how black women are perceived. I'm not concerned about it too much because I can only control my actions. If that clarified my stance on it.
Yeah, I think. Can I jump in and say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So what seems to have happened is what has emerged is sort of two bookends, right, to this issue. You have the sort of culturally conscious. Is it your responsibility to, change the opinion of others? Is it our responsibility to live in such a way that, the people that are around us now, they have an actual view of a real black person, not the ones that are on the news, not the ones that they see on Instagram. And then the other side of this is, look, doesn't matter what the culture is, it doesn't matter what people think. All that matters is that I'm able to, press forward and get what I need to get. And then therefore I can, establish a new standard, and all that kind of thing. So it seems like those are sort of the bookends. And I would suggest that it's actually a combination of both of those things. I think by being a better person, by paying it forward, by, being that example for your own kids, by, conducting yourself in a better manner than whoever, people are used to see that have the same skin color as you have, as the story that Chantel was sharing. That will actually help to, even though it's a case-by-case situation, that will actually help people to have a different experience with black folks, and then therefore change. It seems like there's two, historically have been sort of two approaches to this problem. The one approach is the uh, is the W.E.B. Du Bois approach, and the other one is the Booker T. Washington approach. W.E.B. Du Bois protesting, right? So trying to control basically whatever the situation is going to be for the people that look like you, and Booker T's approach was, I'm just going to be the best person I am, and on a case-by-case basis, I'm going to work within a company, and then people will see me, and then that will be the way that they view Black people, because I'm the one that they know the closest, right? So, yeah, it's a challenging issue, but I think that the actual answer to the issue is somewhere in the middle. It's a both-and sort of approach to this.
All right, LAR. And even though Dr. Thunder, when you say that middle thing, you know where I'm like, oh, okay. It's almost like that spectrum stuff, like, oh, there's this and there's that, and it's somewhere in the middle. Like, get the hell out of here. Right? Anyways, but we can address that later on some other show. But LAR, racial reputation, ethnic reputation. How do you see it? How does it affect you? What do you have to say about this so far?
I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna try to extend it with Chantel and Dr. Thunder were talking.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Let me cut it up some more. We good? Tell me if we good.
Yeah, we good.
My apologies.
Use that bass, knuckle.
Oh, you know what? So, first and foremost, I think we have an acceptance problem. So, as far as race, it is acceptable in this country to use race as a way to cheat to win the game. Mm-hmm. And we approach it as if that's not the truth. So using part of what Chantel was talking about, that's who that guy is. You're not going to leave and he go, oh, that was a good experience. The next Black woman that come in, he going to have an attitude the minute she come in. We as a group, our group is labeled something for other people to use that to their advantage to win. Everybody has bad apples. Everybody has bad stereotypes in their group. But you notice in this country, everybody else's bad apples and bad stereotypes are respected because they might do something to you. See, if it was an Italian woman that walks in, his Middle Eastern things like, oh, she might have a mob member husband, if it's, if it was a Hispanic lady, might have a cartel member boyfriend or dad, like that type of thing. But when it comes to us as a group of people, I can call the police. I can do it with you, but I'm gonna call the police because I could cheat to win the game. So with us, I would say, as a group, we've become short-sighted when it comes to culture and class and our image, because the Black image has changed in the last 40 years. Now the Black image is somewhere between 15 and 30 because it's all just hip-hop image. That when we see Black people, we just see hip-hop. We nothing else really matters, and that should be telling, because we even do it to each other. So everything is viewed through that paradigm. So now, because everything is viewed through that paradigm, that's kind of what I was alluding to in the beginning, where hip hop is viewed as violent, unintelligent, and just rebellious. So every time somebody meets somebody, they're gonna violent, unintelligent, rebellious. So prove to me that you're otherwise by me acting ignorant towards you, because the truth be told, it's no different than a person with road rage. They could cut off 1 million people, and just because you didn't fight with them, and they go, oh, I shouldn't have cut off that person. That does not mean they're gonna, in a quarter mile, they're gonna cut somebody else off. I think we as a group have an issue with accepting where we're at in this country and how it operates. So I'm done on that.
I see. Solo, you want to throw up the $5 super chat on the screen while I read it. Shout out, shout out, shout out. $5 super chat. Very much appreciated. What is that? Asafo. 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 87 says black people are judged by the worst, while every other group is judged by their best. Very unfortunate. Now, when I hear that, what I think is typically marketing and branding falls on you. It is sad what you're saying, right? However, you need to get enough power or enough eyeballs to change that image to the degree to which you care about it. Now, Solo, I think we already kind of know where you stand on the image thing, but let's start moving the conversation towards a particular aspect here that came up in my mind as we were talking. So let's say I was the devil, okay? Let's say I was the devil and I was causing some kind of, I want to infiltrate the masses to cause some kind of crazy problems with the people, and I'm going to cause kids in Appalachia to kill themselves and take certain kinds of drugs. And I'm going to cause kids in, inner city Chicago or Baltimore to do likewise, devalue their life. I'm going to cause a general malaise of, shall we say, meaninglessness. Okay, but at the same time, I'm going to make sure that everybody doesn't see that that's what I'm doing by everyone focusing on their little group. So they don't see that, well, what is the difference between a kid dying in Appalachia, okay, from either overdose or some drug deal gone wrong, or dying in Chicago, right? Because we tend to create this separation. In other words, I'm asking you, Solo, about the spiritual dimension to it, the moral dimension to it, and that if there is a malaise, if you will, that is bringing everybody down, causing people to kill each other here and there, then why are we focusing on the territory and the race rather than just look at the group and say, hey, the whole country is going nuts. People are dying everywhere. Am I making sense, Solo?
Okay, that's a good question, Ike. Well, first, I mean, look at what the government does, right? They do a perfect example of it. If you want to consider, and I'm talking about the world governments, if you want to consider them the devil, right? What do they do whenever they try to get a bill passed that is controversial, Ike? They distract you, exactly, just like you were there
exactly,
for a
yeah.
second. They distract you, right? So we're gonna cause a fake pandemic, for example, right? But we're causing the pandemic because we're trying to move the money. So while you are focused on the pandemic, we're gonna be moving the money. We're gonna switch over to a new system. We're gonna, everything. We're gonna tank the markets. We're gonna move over to a new digitalized system, crypto, all of this new world system. We're gonna keep getting richer. So you get the point I'm trying to make, right? Now I know that's not the answer you probably wanted, but the question that comes up is from a spiritual aspect, right? How do you get to a Sodom and Gomorrah where men are looking for men, and even the dude, I forgot his name, was like, "No, have my virgin daughter," right? And they're like, "Nah, we don't want the daughter, we want the man." And there wasn't even a man; it was an angel. Right? You desensitize the people. You desensitize them. So how do you do that? It happens over time, Ike. Remember in rap, there was a time rappers didn't rap about smoking marijuana or even selling it. Now you listen to rap, everybody's doing lean. Everybody's doing all, now you even got rappers bragging about doing coke. There was a time where rappers rapping about that, they would be laughed at, they would be out of here. But what happened over time, society got desensitized. Now, to answer your second question, Ike, and see, Ike, this is why, Ike, you the man when it comes to this type of stuff, because you think too much, bro. You need to, stop being on NoFap. No, I'm joking. But the reality is, Ike, for example, when you always like to use this. When you see the Starving African Kid commercial, right? From $5 a day will feed the whole village for a month. You've seen those commercials, right? Ike? You've mentioned this in a couple streams. Notice they never tell you what village they're talking about or which African country. So you think in general, like, okay, well, if I send $5 a month, I'll help the whole country. No, it's not like that. So the reality is, Ike, could it be a question then? And I don't want to answer a question with a question, but where people might not even know what's going on. So, for example, if a country like Sierra Leone, people are starving, do you think the average American cares if it's just Africa in general or Sierra Leone? You know what I mean? So I would have to ponder your question a bit more.
Good. And I think there is a super chat as we kind of also continue here on this particular aspect. Shout out to Sick Sounds. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, hey, it's only a problem when a white person kills a black person. But when 700 kids in Chicago get killed by another black man, we overlook it. Oh, yeah, there is. There is that as well, right? We know about that. And thank you very much for the super chat. Anyone could comment upon that as we go along here. So, Dr. Thunder, you see what I've put.
Wait, Elliot.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Since I'm the person who grew up on the west side of Chicago.
Speak into the mic.
Since I'm the person that grew up on the west side of Chicago, this is what I mean by skewed statistics. When 700 kids in Chicago get killed by another black man, we overlook it. When 700 people get killed in Chicago, that's the max. But somehow, guess what? When you write it down, they're all black. Chicago has numerous gangs: Italian, Polish, Puerto Rican, Mexican. Do you know one of the biggest hubs for the Mexican cartel is Chicago? How did you get a hub in Chicago? But what people see is, because you listen to drill music, every shooting is a black person. Asian gangs. That city is built on crime. But this is part of the racial imagery, because nobody says, okay, if a Hispanic kid puts on a hoodie and a do-rag, he's black. That's who shot somebody. If an Asian kid puts on a hoodie and some gloves and covers their face, he's black. You get what I'm saying? So it's usually and like I said, as a person who grew up there, nobody asked the question, with all of these shootings, and I'm not going to sit here and say we don't shoot each other, because that's a lie. But what I'm going to say is, if you notice, when somebody black shoots somebody, you find them. Now, when you hear all the stories about there were 50 people shot on Memorial Day, there were 60 people shot on Labor Day, there were 57 people shot on Independence Day. They never find these people because they're not black. They're not looking for them because they weren't black. Everybody in the city knows how that goes down. And I left there in 97 and I still know how it goes down. But it's the imagery that you felt that we were talking about that's prominent in this. So I'm sorry about that.
No problem. And I like the fact that you did.
Can I jump in on that issue, and then you can redirect and ask the question that we're going to ask. Yeah, this is an interesting point, and I think LAR is totally right on this issue. One thing that you hear frequently is, this talk about black on black crime, but we don't talk about white on white crime. Okay, so black on black crime, it's like the status something like 95%, 98% or whatever of black people die by the hands of another black person, right? But what they don't tell you is that it's about 85% in the white community. And the reason for that is because you tend to kill the people that live next to you. They live with you. All right. And so it's just a talking point. All right. It's a talking point to divert from what the actual issue is. The other thing is that by and large, black people are law abiding. And there is a demographic of those that are in gangs, usually within of a certain age range, that are doing most of this bad acting. a high percentage of the bad acting. Now, to continually bring that up as if that is actually created some salient in defeat to an opposing argument is hogwash. Okay, it's much more complicated than that. And if we're talking about Chicago, no one did more dirt than Al Capone. Okay, sorry.
This is true. This is true. This is true.
Let-
This is true. There is a comment in here that I would like to use to
Let me add
redirect
something.
and towards you.
I'm sorry.
Go
Let me
ahead.
add something
Go
for
ahead, Eleanor. Go ahead.
10, 15 seconds. My apologies. This is what I meant. Al Capone founded Tijuana. Nobody has a problem going to Tijuana. It's like the Central American Las Vegas. Nobody cares. Al Capone's right-hand man, named Frank White, known criminal, known murderer, known drug dealer. The mayor of Chicago gave him his license to carry a firearm to make him legal. I say that to say this. Frank White lived in a neighborhood next to mine, which mine is a predominantly black neighborhood. I'm from the neighborhood where Fred Hampton got assassinated. I'm from the same neighborhood. The Frank White's neighborhood is right next to it. So the same police that could shoot a black man who is an activist are the same police that were cleared to protect a mobster. We act as though with one, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. And the other, you need to get it together. I'm done. I'm not going to interrupt anymore. Promise.
No problem. No problem indeed. So somebody says in here, okay, race will always be ahead of class. The lowest white person will always be better than the highest black person. Now, I'm not talking about the intentions of whomever wrote that there. But what I'm saying is to go back to the question of there seems to be an aspect of distraction here. If we want to raise things up to a certain level, okay, it may not be completely spiritual. Maybe it's just a human level. Let's be humanists. Or you can go higher and get spiritual if you want, right? But the point is, to my question to Solo and the question that's still on the table, what is the difference between people getting in trouble and killing each other everywhere? Why do we have to divide the stats based on class and based on race, especially? And then when it comes to solutions, okay, shout out to the Jordan Petersons of the world and the Alcoholics Anonymous and all these other things. There is what is called a spiritual transformation, which is required. If you don't like the term spiritual, then you can just go and think about what it means when people go to AA and have to switch. Okay. It has to do with something in their consciousness and their mind and their belief system and the narratives that is contained in there, if you prefer that description. That has to happen. And that's not going to happen by throwing stats together, looking at this place, looking at that place, looking at this place, looking at that place. Can we, Dr. Thunder, rise above and get Jesus-y over here about how, hey, it's a common problem. The solution has to be a spiritual one. Kumbaya, if you will. What do you have to say?
Yeah, one of my frustrations with teaching at a PWI, public white institution, one of my issues is that the public part of that equation prevents me from being able to answer questions in issues and address issues that students raise with what I believe to be the true answer, right? The spiritual answer, right? We have to act like that is a it exists, but we can't be very specific about it. So then I'm supposed to give them answers that are these sort of practical, quote unquote, kind of answers, but that avoid, the real important matters, right? So that's an issue. Another issue is that because it's a public white institution, the white part at best, these institutions are filled with white folks that are, they may be well-meaning, but their solutions to problems, in my mind, actually create worse problems, right?
Mhm.
So the sort of diversity and inclusion sort of problems, right?
I hear
So
you. I hear you. I hear
all of
you.
yeah, so all of those kinds of issues are not they're worth discussing, they're worth talking about. But until you can sort of transcend and get to the sort of what is sort of causing all of these issues, what's the source, of the problem, you're going to constantly just have the same problems over and over. And you can try to put a Band-Aid on it, but the Band-Aid will be easily removed.
So Chantel, behavior, okay, and how it is changed. The psychoanalyst will tell you that hey, you gotta go in there and change something that they call spiritual. Hey, and the religious guy's like, hey, of course, that's what we've been doing this whole time. In order to transform Uncle Jim, the drunkard, whatever, he has to go through, he has to find a come to Jesus moment, or a come to whatever it is. Okay? But the point is, there is something deep that is not about public policy, number one. And number two, it's not about comparing statistics and arguing back and forth about blah, 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 but that if people are misbehaving and they're devaluing their lives, that this is a human problem, number one, should be unified, and there should be a quote unquote spiritual approach to the issue. How does that ring to you? Are you a spiritual person in that regard? Do you find solutions there? And also, okay, anyways, let me not put words in your mouth. What do you have to say about that, Chantel?
I think I do agree that in order for a person to change, they have to want the change. And regardless of what influenced them to want the change, it might be a spiritual reason. So I do agree in that sense that more than likely it's always something outside of the physical. It's outside of the government or whatever else. So yeah, I do agree. If I think I'm answering the question right, if it's a spiritual sense, why people change.
Yes, 100%. And even in your channel, because you talk about, trying to, maybe you did transform at some point or not,
Mhm.
but your channel is geared towards getting people to do some kind of a change, right? And do you think it's a question of, if they just had the right policy, the right particular, if they took this course in college, if they stopped having this particular image on Essence magazine about black people, whatever it may be? Or do you think now the problem with the spiritual thing is because it's very individual, but
Mhm.
again,
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong. That's why people don't like addressing things that are very individual, because people like to hover above and talk, be powerful and make sweeping
Mhm.
statements and sign this and give billions of dollars there. But what do you have to say about this individual aspect of things? Are you speaking to one woman at a time in your channel?
I am, yeah. I do think, and to acknowledge your point, people tend to drift away from that individual focus. But I do think that's where it comes down to. In order to see change in the community, it starts with an individual change. It starts with each person deciding to make that change, to make that difference. So yeah, when I use my channel, I do talk on an individual basis to each person who want to listen. I don't think you can, in order to see genuine change, you can't be general, because everybody is individually different, and how you receive the message might be different than how someone else received the message based on their individual beliefs, their individual, spirituality, religion. So yeah, I do think we're doing ourselves a disservice when we try to speak in general without acknowledging and respecting that not everybody is the same.
Here,
Mm,
can I jump in here for a second?
go ahead.
Yeah. So now, uh, I don't think that Chantel is giving the snowflake answer. By the way, when she says, everybody will kind of receive it differently, because obviously there are there are things that we can look at and say, okay, that can directly apply. This other thing, their situation is different. That's probably not going to work on my situation, right? There's a principle, and I've said this multiple times. It's a principle I got from Joel Brooks, who I interviewed in my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series. It was a great interview. But anyhow, the saying is that when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing, then you will change. And now you could argue that it is possible that some folks may not actually know that they're in pain and to the extent of that pain. And so that could be a reason why they're staying the same. Or they don't see an option. They don't see anything different, as being viable for their situation. And part of that could be the weight and the power of culture of family history, right? So seeing someone doing better could actually create an opportunity for a breakthrough for that person. So I try not to minimize the impact of other people that look like me, or that look like us achieving things as sort of forerunners. Even Jesus had a forerunner.
All right, LAR, what you got to say about this? So let me bring you back to the first thing that you said. You said, hey, there's a whole lot of game playing going on. There's a whole lot of comparing your top with my bottom. There's a whole lot of not nuanced enough. Why are we comparing the Kenyans from that hill with the Filipinos when it comes to marathons, for example? But to the degree to which there is a problem, because all this stuff about the measurements and the improvement is, shall we say, premised on the fact that there are problems of crime, problems of drug abuse, problems of whatever it may be. Is there a benefit to blowing it up and removing the race aspect, removing these boundaries and saying, hey, mother from Chicago whose son got killed and mother from Appalachia whose son got killed, what is the difference between both of you people? And what do we know about being human beings? Okay, forget the racial aspect, that can be brought to bear to solving this. And from, again, a spiritual perspective, taking that spiritual word there in the, you know what I mean by that.
Mhm.
And what are your thoughts on this sort of question?
So I'm going to be the Debbie Downer once again. America is a godless country. So spirituality is really void in this place. It's an individual thing, but as a collective thing, it doesn't exist. God is just something that we use in America to absolve ourselves of consequences from another human being who we've crossed. So are we all human? Do we have the human experience? Absolutely. Do we have the similar adversities because of life in general? Absolutely. But our spirituality is just like race, class, and culture. It's convenient. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and plenty Black preachers have said this. The most segregated place in the United States of America is church on Sunday. So even the most quote unquote spiritual people aren't spiritual together. We don't praise together because we don't believe in the same God. And I'll take it a step further. What this country is capitalist. God is somewhere far down on the list past money. And the reason I say that is because a couple of days ago, Solo sent me a picture of the new currency, right? The new bills. So you got Washington, Lincoln, Jackson, Grant, Kennedy, Jefferson. You got 4 men who owned slaves, and one of them was a pedophile, and 2 men who got killed by American citizens, assassinated for trying to make the country, quote unquote, more fair for everybody. We have to, and this is how you pay for things in this country. You give that same money to the church. So when it comes to spirituality, we're not there yet. Like you change the color, you change the race, you change the ethnicity, you change the gender, you change your human ability to care for the person or to empathize. So, like I said, that was going to be a little depressing, but that's what it is.
Let me ask you, because it's not depressing yet until you perhaps give one particular answer to this question, which is, I get it that you're saying that, hey, the lever of race, the lever of class, the lever of all these other dances are just, little dances that people are playing. We're just little monkeys out here trying to get piles of stuff and hide it from other people, have our own little social groups and status groups until we die, right? And then the spirituality aspect, you say, hey, this is not the environment for it. It's not built up. You're not living in some kind of theocracy. Okay, therefore it won't work. But it's still not bleak yet until you tell me that nothing will work. In other words, LAR, what in your mind, maybe even reach out there, be idealistic, whatever it be, what solves the problems? Or it's just, we're coasting just about right, given the monkeys that we are, in the situation that we are, within the terrain that we are. What do you have to say about that?
ELE, extinction level event. That's the only time people come together because they want to live another day to go back to do the same BS they've been doing.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it.
All right. Okay.
Get some help.
Yeah. Because you're like, oh, go ahead.
My bad, LA. My bad. I had to play it. I had to.
I need some help, man. I need to stop it. But if I had an enjoyable movie watch recently with this Netflix show about Don't Look Up. And the stupidity.
Great movie, by the way. I love it.
And what you were talking about, that's why it was so fun, because it can be so realistic in a real way, how our belief system of needing to be superior in this country can get the whole world killed. Mm-hmm. So, no. Think about it, right? If Jesus was to come back and he didn't look white, it's going to be a problem.
That's going to be the least of your worries.
That is, I guess.
Who is this nappy-headed Negro
on CNN right now? Fox News, people know, you compare, whatever international committee of he was white, he was this, like, he can't be Jesus. Anyways,
I have something to add to that, which
go ahead.
So I agree with what LAR just said. I actually do think that however, that Americans are quite religious. I just think that the kind of religion that they have is national politics. I think that's the true religion, because if you consider the fact that it is the only thing that random people on the street feel, they are so zealous that they feel that they can intrude on your personal space and tell you that you better vote. If someone says, I don't want to vote, or I'm a third party, it's the only thing that most folks almost feel a compunction about telling you that that's a wasted vote. So yeah, the kind of spirituality that would be advantageous, Americans don't deal with that. Not at the level that we should, or that would be effective, or that would actually be helpful. But As far as national politics, there's your there's your religion.
All right, Solo, you may have had some time to think upon the topic that's been going around, right? Because I first started with you saying, hey, if I was the devil and I was creating all these problems and at the same time creating distractions so that you cannot see what the commonalities are, right? And then people have said different things. Solo has, I mean, shall we say, LAR has painted the bleak picture saying, hey, you know what? It's nihilism and this is what we are. For the most part, I agree with him. And extinction, especially on the level of human nature and how most people are, right? I'm not expecting any great transformations from their end, generally speaking, anytime soon. But Solo, anything to add? Do you agree completely with LAR? Do you think that perhaps there are any levers that could be pulled to create particular outcomes for yourself or others? You and Elon are gonna go to the moon and spend Dogecoin, whatever it
Facts.
is. What
Facts.
you got to say about it? What you got to say about it, Solo? What's your solution?
All right, man. I could go the crypto route, but I'm gonna spare you right now. I do agree with LAR, but I don't think it would have to take an extinction level event. I think even like a mass exposure event could do it. If you uncover, for example, corrupted politicians, that they're all part of a pedophile ring or something of that sort, or corruption that could really set the trend in regards to that, right? Where people lose faith in the government and their leadership. That's all that would take, along with a food shortage, which is going on right now, and other shortages. I mean, listen, LAR, they said there's going to be an alcohol shortage this year. So that could start a revolution. You know what I'm saying? That alone, an alcohol shortage alone could start a revolution. But huh?
So Watergate,
Huh?
Watergate, Prohibition,
Mm-hmm.
Nixon. Well, Nixon is Watergate. Watergate, Prohibition, and Oliver North. As far as all the things you talked about, that didn't stop us.
It already happened, huh?
Right. But what if you had them all happen at once?
So, like, how about?
I mean, it's already happening. If you look at
How about their final form?
Huh? I mean, anyway.
My God.
Anyway,
finish your thoughts, Solo.
But that's what I'm saying, Ike. So on an individual level, it's up to you, right, to be able to want to change, make that change, right? So if you're a chubby guy like me, now I'm eating healthier. I'm drinking more water, alkaline water, Perrier water. If you want to stop having a sex addiction, then that's something you're gonna have to work on, right? Now, are there spiritual implications? Yes, but that's for another stream. Now, my thing is, though, I do agree with LAR, but I think that really, when you have a group of people who are just tired, revolution will come. Everybody choose crypto. That's all I got to say.
All right. Let's go around with closing thoughts here. Dr. Thunder, Chantel, LAR, and then back to Solo. Okay, closing thoughts. But first, let me go ahead and say something about how far we've come. Just in this conversation, okay? In this conversation, we've clearly stated that, you know what, it's somewhat arbitrary to pick all these various parameters, divide people into groups, and just start comparing, in the sense that it is good to compare, okay, and keep score. Chantel and Dr. Thunder said, hey, as long as you're going to emulate some other people, okay, somebody in the chat says, hey, yeah, I compare in order to check this and that. We all do that, and that is good. But when it comes to group stuff, where there is no one brain, but a collective brain, and then things get mobby and weird, then things tend to run out of hand. And then we boiled it all the way down to, well, is the solution going to be a class one? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And I think the only thing that we've come out with is, hey, you do you focus on you solve your problems, and spirituality, insofar as it can be practiced, is a one by one, person by person, soul by soul if you will, game. And we're not in a theocracy whereby the environment, the terrain, to use LAR's words, work in favor of quote unquote spirituality to be other than national politics. National politics is the religion, right? It's not called a spirituality, it's called a religion in this case. Okay, but now with regards to the racial question, and starting with Dr. Thunder and then Eliar Chantel, do we have any outcomes that we would like to see? Forget whether you think, and they may be maybe small, they may be granular. For someone like Eliar, maybe just be like, hey, I would like to wake up tomorrow and the black race to still be around, right? Or not. I don't know what kind of crazy mass extinction type things you guys are dreaming
These
of.
views are
But
not Solo TV 84's views. Just the public. Thank you. Thank you.
so, Dr. Thunder, okay, you started out by saying that, hey, I am for black men. I have the racial kind of thing as part of my raison d'etre, if you will. So, your desired outcomes, forget whether they're possible, how they're going to get there. Do we get there by spirituality or not? But what would you like to see? Let's start with Dr. Thunder and then LAR Chantel Solo.
Yes. So this has been a lively discussion, interesting topic. As usual, make sure that you come back and check us out. I'm going to do a little shameless plugging first before I get to my remarks, but I did an interview with Solo TV 84, Solomon Jones. There it is right there. And that interview was from this past week. Really interesting conversation. We really kind of got into the sort of the reinventing and sort of transformation of one Solomon Jones. And so that was very, it was a good conversation. Also, make sure you come and check out Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. That's on Ike's channel on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have a great show for you there. I also do a live stream on Thursdays on my channel called Thunder's Thoughts. Had a really great episode this past Thursday. The show goes on 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that show was called How to Destroy the Black Community in 3 Easy Steps. So very thought-provoking kind of conversation there. Got some great interviews coming up. You know, what I would like to see in my advocacy for black men and boys, part of, I think, what has needed to happen, and part of the reason why I'm involved in many capacities in the Black manosphere, is because it seems to be the only place where we're having the most important conversation. And yes, that's the sort of state of Black love, as it were. It's getting Black men and Black women together. It's promoting 2-parent households, because the family, the Black family, not what Democrats mean by Black family, women and children, and in particular women and daughters, because the boys will become men, but rather intact, stable families that will do a better job of creating stronger communities. That's the primary thing. It's the most important issue. And to the extent that Black church has not been successful, that needs to be addressed. And to the extent that other aspects of our society have not done things that would promote that outcome, academia, politics, then I would like to see those things lean in that direction. The first thing that has to happen, though, is Black men and Black women have to get together. We got to come to the table and be able to voice our grievances and come out with a better outcome.
All right. Come to the table indeed. So, Chantel, what are your dreams? What is your vision? What do you want for the Black race, if you will?
I would say also, I agree with Dr. Thunder to start seeing more two-parent households in the Black community. Um, but again, that starts on an individual basis. So it's to for Black women to be more self-aware and to brainstorm ways of how we can better ourselves so we can start working with our Black men and start seeing more two-parent households in our community.
Yes,
Indeed,
and
indeed, indeed.
Chantel. Anyway, oh, I'm sorry. My mic is on. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, your mic is on. LAR, what is your best case scenario, LAR? We already know you're a doomsday kind of guy. Go ahead.
I wanted to do Samuel L. Jackson. Yes, we deserve to die, and I hope no, but I'm not going to do that. In all seriousness, I think that we need to get back to sacrificing our lifetime for the benefit of the generations that come from us. I think that is probably our biggest problem. We stopped doing that, and it became a downward spiral. And we have to put that back into practical application. From the rank and file person, not just celebrities and rich people, the rank and file common man and common woman.
I see. Almost sounds spiritual and religious there. All this self-sacrificing and such. LAR. But yeah, I like it that you put the principle that actually is beneath what Dr. Thunder and Chantel says. Like, why are you getting these Black men and Black women and doing this family stuff? It is for the next generations, right? So, Solo, what is your dream scenario? What would you like to see besides Becky not running away from you when you're, jogging with your hoodie, rather running towards you, I guess is what you want.
The dream scenario is very simple. I mean, I talk about self-improvement on my channel all the time. I talk about the plight, but most importantly, the dream scenario would be for everybody to hodl some Shiba Inu and be part of the new class that I'm talking about. Right now, it's less than a penny. It's less than half a penny. You can get, 1.5 million for $100. If you hold till it goes to a penny, that's what, 150 grand? So that'll get you right. If you get 150 grand, you're not going to be worried about getting a girlfriend on the metaverse, because then you can get Bernice in real life. Bernice can pull up to you in real life. If you don't want Bernice, you can get Lakeisha. You can fly out her and her mama and her auntie. That's all good. At the end of the day, if you don't like those, we can get you Kimberly too. Okay? That is the solution. But first, we got to get rid of these guys. And that's all I got to say.
All right. I think we are done, Solo. I think that we are done. And I would have to agree with LAR in terms of what I would like to see is more
that's why
individuals.
we ain't never gonna do a show again, bro, because you don't believe in the crypto, my G. That's why we can't have nice things. That's why we can't. Wait, how much money did you make off Dogecoin again? That's what I thought.
Oh, that's what I've done very well in crypto the past 20 not 20 years, but starting 2020, I've done very well on the crypto side of things. I was gonna ask you certain questions about the market cap of Shiba Inu. You telling people that it's only a penny, but what's the market cap though? But anyways, we're not gonna get into the whole crypto conversation, especially when it comes to technical analysis and trading it, if you will. But I would like people to start taking life more seriously, generally speaking, and I think that will or might lead to what LAR is saying, right? Which is, sacrificing for the future generations. But taking this life seriously would at least lead you not to devalue your life and overdose on pills and kill the next person and sell poison to your neighborhood and all those other kinds of things. But I think that is what my dream scenario is, both for the race and for humanity at large. So that's it, Solo. You can take us out.
All right, guys. So we have the show here. I appreciate Ike, aka the devil in disguise. I guess that's his new nickname now. Devil in the suit, right? Shout out to Chantel, looking scrumptious as usual, and I see you got your hair done. Dr. Thunder, I see you, man. You working out. I appreciate that. LAI movement. You know what I'm saying? You need to turn your mic up. I don't know. Maybe he low, like, because he don't want his girl to hear what he about to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love black women. I love black women. Okay, I'm just joking. But anyway, guys, yeah, great show. We'll be back next week. Next week's topic is going to be, we're going to be talking about Ike and if his wife will let him have a mistress or not. So Ike has told me he wants a Nigerian mistress. I don't think that'll work with a Ghanaian woman as a wife, but we'll see what Ike can pull off because any guy wearing a purple tie that's not a Vikings fan, I got to give him props for having some.
I'm just glad he didn't use me in that last side chick comment.
Anyway, so with that being said, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week. God bless you, and we're out.